Welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson, and it's a long, hard road out of hell. Before we get to the crash update, I want to talk about my new channel, AutoElysium. Basically, it's Mile High Reefers for cars. Now, I'm going to put your fears to rest. Mile High Reefers isn't going anywhere. But I have three real hobbies, and that's aquariums, videography, and cars, like this 70 GTO right behind me. Basically, all I've done is taken my video hobby and rolled it over onto my car hobby and created AutoElysium with a friend of mine. So if you like the way I do video work and you like cars, check out AutoElysium, linked down below. This tank's been crashing for a couple months and it's incredibly depressing. It's really hard to put so much time and effort in your tank only to have it in a couple of days be overgrown with algae again. But you know what? That's what I gotta do if I'm gonna get my tank back to where it needs to be. So let's go downstairs. I'll show you where the stuff is downstairs, where the algae looks like. We'll clean it up and we'll make it better. So as you can see, the algae downstairs is real bad. I'm getting ready to do my water change on it, so I haven't scrubbed glass or anything yet. But basically what I do is I clean all the coral and we're gonna move them over this tank. But we gotta get this tank cleaned up first. And you can see, this is about a week's worth of algae growth down here. It's just insane. Hopefully one of these days I'll get rid of it. The only good thing is by sucking this algae out, at least I'm physically removing some nitrates and phosphates from the system. But I'm gonna do that here in a moment, but I thought I'd show you where I'm starting from. But basically we're gonna get this tank cleaned out, and then I've got another rack we're gonna throw in here that's already clean and dry. And then we'll scrub all the coral and everything off. You can see this tank's a lot better. Both been here a week, but this one has the big urchin in it, and it also has a couple of tangs. So we'll get this cleaned up, and then we'll swap the urchin and the tangs over as well. So one of the challenges to the water change is once I start it, I really can't see. So I'm gonna let it settle out, and we'll get 90% of this algae out of here anyways. Water change is done. I did a 30-gallon water change total. You can see this tank looks much better. This is the right tank that was empty, that was full of algae. I scrubbed the coral, I scrubbed the glass. It's far from perfect, but it's better. I mean, that's all I can really shoot for. My goal right now is to get as much algae out of this system as I can. And here's the other tank. I ended up leaving the tangs in here just because it's a little less stressful on the fish. There's also a shrimp in there. And I've got the urchin in this tank. So maybe that'll balance it out a little better with the algae growth. We'll see. I'm much more worried about the algae growth on the coral than I am the tank itself, because it's real easy to clean out the tank itself. That being said, it's a pain in the butt. I also sucked a bunch of algae out of this bottom tank. You can see it looks like absolute crap, but I was able to get a lot of algae out, which is real important. Went ahead and cleaned up my skimmer and changed out the carbon and GFO. The goal is to get the phosphates down as low as possible. Algae needs both phosphates and nitrates to grow. So I can get the phosphates down, that's gonna help a lot. The problem is phosphates can be locked away in rocks and everything else. So even if my tech kit shows 0, there's a good chance I've still got phosphates in the tank. So one of the big problems with my system is I can only make 30 gallons of water up at a time. So I've done my water change downstairs, but you know what? I can't do the upstairs stuff and I can't do my nano yet. So while I'm waiting on my water to mix up, let's take a look at this tank. You can see what the coral looks like, and you can see what all my overgrown algae looks like. So right after filming that last scene, I noticed that my desert eating tang is eating my clam. In fact, he's eaten a good bit of the exhaust siphon off of that clam. You can see it in this video. I'm so annoyed. I've got to catch this fish and get him out of this tank. So instead of making the video like I was telling you I was going to do, I noticed the clam being eaten. Well, I caught the clam eater. I think he's going to QT or downstairs. And here's the clam. You can see that output siphon's pulled in. I noticed it was pretty chewed up earlier. If I can get some video of it, I will. Fingers crossed this guy recovers. I'm super worried about him. Now that the clam eater's caught, let's talk about the state of the tank. Bubble's not big and fluffy like usual, but you can see his mouth is big and open. I think he probably got some of that food I was trying to use to catch the tang. Certain corals seem to be loving the high nutrients like the leathers. In fact, this big devil's hand's already starting to overgrow the big frog spawn. So I think I'm gonna move that big frog spawn and put this toadstool that's being overgrown by this toadstool where that frog spawn is. But that might be a project for tomorrow. Just more algae overgrowth. You can see the green polyp sinularia. The rock it's on is just covered. Really anywhere there's bare rock and light, the algae grows. The Euphyllia garden looks okay, but it's definitely having its struggle with algae. It gets overgrown, and then that really does give problems with the heads. The brains don't seem too affected by the water quality. In fact, they look like they're loving it, but I do have to scrub the algae around it so they don't get overgrown. The bird's nest colony finally died, so I removed it, leaving a big hole, and I think I'll move this frog spawn here, right there, temporarily, just to fill that hole. Certain Monipora are responding differently to the high nutrients. This one here is really struggling. You can see the algae growing on it. I really hope it's coming back. The color looks better on it. I love this colony, but I'm real worried about it. But the one behind it is growing like gangbusters. I hate the color on it. This one should be nice and bright, but the growth is ridiculous. The Pavona doesn't care. Color's the same as always, and now that it's got the open space, it's gonna do even better. The Spongoda, it continues to grow. The color looks like crap though. The big purple Monty is grown to the surface. I need to pull it out, frag it, and reaquascape that, but I can't do that until I fix my algae problem, or the entire tank will start to look like that, which is not what we want. I did, however, pull a big piece of purple out that was right here so that my green Atlantis pink tip wouldn't be overgrown. It's actually doing really well. There's a lot of algae around it that needs cleaned off, which will happen in the next couple days, but I pulled it so it wouldn't get overgrown. As you can see, that purple has just been taking over. Yeah, I gotta get my nutrients down, get the algae down, and my monies will look great again. But I wanted you to see the full tank in all of its ugliness. So to get rid of the algae, basically I'm relying on water changes and biopellets. I'm slowly raising the level of biopellets. Really, I've had problems with them in the past, but the problems I've had in the past pale in comparison to what I'm dealing with right now. So hopefully as I get the nitrates down, the algae will grow slower and the cleanup crew will start to take care of it. But this is going to be a long process. Now the problem with biopellets is it's a real slow process to get it going. It's biological. You've got bacteria living on the biopellets, feeding off of it, and I've got to get proper bacterial colonies. And I didn't add starter. Why? Well, it's not really that necessary. The bacteria is already in the tank, and bacteria grows at an exponential rate. So I could have dosed it and I may have gotten a little bit of a speed boost, but the reality is it probably wouldn't have made that big of a difference. Also, I'm trying to bring all of this on slowly. Believe it or not, with all the problems I'm having, too much too fast can be a problem. So I'm really trying to bring the biopellets on slowly. So over about the last 3 months now, I'm up to 3 cups of biopellets. And the good news is, for the first time, I think we are starting to decline on nitrates. Now, I haven't sent away for any tests. I use the Celifert test kit, which basically goes from 10 to 25 to 50. But last week, my nitrates appeared to be on the darker side of 25. My last test, this time they seem on the lighter side of 25. So I think I'm going in the right direction. Yes, I could send away and get better, more accurate results, or even invest in a better test kit. But the reality is, what I need to spend my money on is more salt, more water changes, and more time in husbandry. So that's what I'm going to be doing. It's going to be a long, hard road out of this hell. But we'll get there, and this tank in 2020 will hopefully be better than it is today. Thanks for watching this episode of Mile High Reefers. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.